All right, it has been a little while since I gave you guys an update on the EG. It's out and running really great right now. I just got it aligned the other day. It's about negative 2.7 in the front, negative 1.9 in the rear, and it's driving and handling like a dream. Recently though, besides it running good, I've had some issues with my CSF radiator. Now, on this guy, if you guys look, it's got the overflow port that goes out this side. But on this model, it actually used to have a hole there and there. So that way, depending on your motor setup and how you have things rearranged in the engine bay, you could either have it come out through this way or out through that way. And what came with it was these little plugs. And these used to have little O-rings on it, and you would screw them into there. As you can see, though, I don't have that. That right there, that's JB Weld. What ended up happening was I was getting little bits of leaking coming out of here, and so I ended up just tightening it a little more, thinking that would, fix the leak, and it ended up snapping off. And then the same thing happened for this side when I tried to take it out. The threading got stuck inside. Luckily, I was able to get it out, so I had to find a separate little port that would let me connect the overflow hose to there. And it was really hard to find because it's an M6 thread size, which you guys can see in there. And it's super tiny. But anyway, so I got that fixed, and then I started having issues with the thermostat here seeping there, and I've just never really liked. Let me grab a light. There we go. I've just never really liked the setup, how the CSF radiator is for the lower hose. So it comes out right there, and I'm running an RSX thermostat, which kind of goes down towards the driver's side. But then this hose has to like kind of do an S curve, like a little snake. And you got to tighten it really good down on the thermostat and the lower radiator outlet. Otherwise, if you loosen it up, the hose will like kind of unkink and come off. So it's kind of like fighting the resistance. And I was having a little bit of seepage issue there because I had to cut the hose all funky. And it just kept having small little leaks. So what I ended up getting was this hybrid racing full-size radiator for the EG with the K-swap, as well as the hybrid racing silicone hose set. At first, as you guys see, I kind of got these generic ones on eBay. I don't know what they're called, PDY or something. I don't know. They were like just generic, like RSX stuff. But I've always had this issue where the shift balance little bracket guy right here kind of hits this radiator hose when I shift into fifth. I mean, I'm still able to shift, but there you could feel a little resistance there. So according to the description on the site, these are kind of specifically designed to avoid that issue. So I'm looking forward to see if that actually avoids that. And then these guys have all these different little markings on there, so you can cut it exactly for the specific setup you're running. And yeah, so it should work a lot better. Kind of looking forward to getting that on there. The one thing I will miss, though, is with my CSF, I had this radiator fan shroud right here where it just bolted on, so that's kind of nice. I am going to be reusing my spout fan, and then I just picked up like a generic little zip tie, fan mounting set for that, because that's how Hybrid Racing does it with theirs. I just didn't buy their fan kit since I already had one. Also forgot to mention that I picked up this Hybrid Racing swivel thermostat adapter, so it comes with a new thermostat, even though I didn't need that. But mainly interested in this guy because the OEM one is plastic, and I kind of always worry about cracking that, tightening it too tight with the hose clamp. This is a nice anodized aluminum one, and this lets you adjust whatever angle you want this to sit at, so the bracket around it spins, and you can, make it work exactly the way you want, so the hose fitment is perfect. So I'm also going to throw that on once we get the radiator out. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this finish draining, and then we'll get this guy pulled out. right, so here we got the Hybrid Racing full-size radiator out of the box, and I want to show you a few key differences between this one and the CSF one I got over there. The number one thing that I like the most is how they have the lower port. It actually comes out to the side, and it's over here kind of near the driver's side, so that way when it connects to the thermostat that's over here on the engine, it's got like a straight chute and then just goes up. So it's like a direct line, and you can see that kind of by this hose example that I have. This guy bolts onto there, and then I believe I'm going to have to cut at one of these lines. I got to see once it's installed, and it's a straight shot, whereas the CSF over here, it comes just straight out. So they didn't really, in my opinion, do a lot of thinking. So what you have to do is you have to use this kind of hose, but you have to kind of like kink it for it to go from coming straight out to up and to the side to the factory thermostat. So not the most ideal setup, because even with that hose, you do kind of kink it slightly to be able to get it to hit the right angles, and just not a super fan of that. And this is where they clearly thought it out ahead of time, and it's got a straight shot, so much better. Also, this does not have all the other extra ports on the sides. It just has one straight out, so nothing to worry about leaking there. So I'm going to get these plugs up here for sensors that I don't need tightened up, and we'll get this installed. All right, a little bit of an update. The radiator is sitting in there where it's going to be final. I just finished cutting the lower radiator hose, and its fitment is perfect. I'm going to show you guys that real quick. If you take a look down there, you can see it goes from the thermostat housing right there directly over to that lower outlet. So it's just like a straight shot up. So there's no weird kinks. The hose is made for that exact angle, and it reaches all the way to each end, so there's plenty of space for clamps. So very happy with how that came out. Although I am kind of worried my big spout fan was having trouble fitting on this radiator, so I do got to take that out and then attach that and see if it's going to fit, but we'll know soon enough. Update. It is a few days later, actually about a week later. The 12-inch fan I had on my CSF radiator does not fit on the Hybrid Racing radiator. This radiator is a little shorter, but it's wider versus the CSF one. So I ended up ordering a 10-inch fan. Now Hybrid Racing recommends two 10-inch fans, but the one that they sell, it looks like a generic eBay fan, and it has a lower CSF or CFM rating than these nice quality SPAL fans that I like to use. So one of these should be good enough on here. So I'm going to throw that on, and then once we get that on installed, we can throw this guy in. So let's go do that. Fan is now mounted, and I went ahead and spliced on the OEM fan connector. So here we have the factory connector, and then I just spliced it together with two butt connectors, and then I'll go ahead and put some Testa tape to cover this to keep it from having anything get into it and give it some heat protection. There it is, all wrapped up, and we're ready to throw this in the car. And we are done bleeding the car. I didn't want to show you guys the whole process because it takes like 20-25 minutes. Turning the heat on, jacking the car up, etc., etc. Anyway, it's all bled and all good. One thing to note for this fan, I had the colors hooked up the same blue and black as the Honda factory harnesses, but I actually had to swap the pins because it was pushing air through to the front of the car. So I swapped those. Now it's pushing it to the block how it should be. Comes on, nothing overheats, turns off well, everything's good. I gave a little quick test drive, everything's working great. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how this thing sounds when it's starting with everything and the exhaust hooked up properly. Because I believe in the last video, it was the first start and it sounded like crap because nothing was hooked up. One last thing to note, as you'll see, the radiator is kind of leaning more down on this side, and I have this little cardboard right here to keep it from rubbing. So the issue with this is, for the CSF radiator, I had to remove the factory AC condenser brackets, which this actually has pegs for and supports it. So without those, it's kind of leaning down on this side. So I'm going to take the car to my buddy's fab shop, and he's going to put new brackets on the bottom to support this. But otherwise, this works great. Looks very nice. Fan setup's good, and important of all, nothing is leaking, unlike on the CSF. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.